We have some major breaking news as Chase Briscoe and Joe Gibbs Racing have been handed massive L2 penalties after the race at Daytona International Speedway. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel and welcome back to our video. As I just said a second ago, we had some pretty massive and major breaking news as Chase Briscoe and Joe Gibbs Racing have been handed massive L2 penalties after Daytona International Speedway. The reason the team's been handed a massive penalty is due to spoiler modifications. Here's a report from Zach Zarinello and many reporters in the industry. The number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing team was dealt an L2 level penalty after last weekend's season opening Daytona 500. Following further inspection at the NASCAR R&D Center in Concord, North Carolina, NASCAR found modifications to spoiler of the number 19 Toyota driven by Chase Briscoe. According to the NASCAR rulebook, an L2 penalty includes modifications to the next-gen single-source fender supply parts and or assemblies. They said that Joe Gibbs Racing was found to be in violation of Section 14.1 of the rulebook, which pertains to overall assembled vehicle rules, and 14.5.8, which deals with the spoiler. Specifically, the spoiler base was found to be modified on the number 19 car. The spoiler base is a single source part and cannot be modified. Chase Briscoe was docked 100 driver points and 10 playoff points. Joe Gibbs Racing was fined $100,000 and deducted 100 owners points as well as 10 playoff points. Crew chief James Small was suspended for 4 races. This is absolutely huge. We just began the season Sunday, and we already have a team that's been handed a massive, and a really big penalty. Spoiler modifications in the car are not acceptable according to NASCAR. And if you are to mess with the spoiler, there's a very likely chance and possibility you're going to be handed a penalty. NASCAR has been very strict when it comes to the next-gen car. This is not the first time even Chase Briscoe, when he's been driving for a team, has been penalized for messing with the next-gen parts. I believe Chase Briscoe back in 2023 after the Coca-Cola 600, when he drove for Stewart-Haas Racing, his team would penalize. But it hasn't just been him. Brad Keselowski back in 2022 was the first driver to be handed pretty massive penalties during the next-gen era. Kevin Harvick's been penalized multiple different times, I believe, in the next-gen era. I believe other people like Zane Smith and I think some of the front row guys like Michael McDowell have been handed some pretty big and massive penalties. And now Chase Briscoe, for the second time in the next-gen era in the last 4 years, he's been handed a pretty big penalty. This is going to have massive and huge implications toward the playoffs going forward because Chase Briscoe now has negative points. Now, the one little positive for Chase Briscoe is that he still has time to make it up because we just began the season. If this was later in the year, I don't think Chase Briscoe would have had a chance and opportunity to make it up. So his season is not completely over at this point. He will have a chance and opportunity to make up all those points as we do progress throughout the rest of the year. But this is going to be a major setback for the number 19 team and Joe Gibbs Racing. Chase Briscoe now is going to have to win a race at this point, which I do think there's a really good chance he'll be able to win because I think Briscoe is going to have a car capable of winning races this year, and I don't think he's going to be out of the woods just yet. But he now has less points than drivers like Elio Castroneves, who didn't even score any single points. He's got less points than Jimmy Johnson right now. All the drivers who are competing in Xfinity that ran the Cup race, like Justin Allgaier, Junior Motorsports, they've got more points currently at the moment right now. It's just a massive setback for Joe Gibbs Racing to start the season. I think this might be only the first time that JGR has gotten penalized for something big like this. I don't think any of the Toyota teams have been ever penalized. Maybe Legacy's been penalized for some smaller stuff when it was, of course, Petty GMS back a couple years ago. But I don't think any of those other teams have been penalized. Again, NASCAR does have a rule book where they're very strict in regard to spoiler. I think this also explains why we saw Chase Briscoe basically be able to be as fast at Daytona, because the Toyotas generally have not been super fast when it comes to qualifying at super speedways. I think that's a massive reason why Chase Briscoe was so much faster than the rest of the competition during Daytona 500 qualifying. Yes, I know that James Small and the 19 team, to be fair, had won the 2 previous points-paying polls at Martinsville and Phoenix, but I think the fact that they were so much faster tells you they're doing some modifications. Look, NASCAR, especially when it comes to the vendors and when it comes to the next-gen parts, they don't want these drivers and these teams messing with the parts, which is why these penalties are coming out in the first place. We know, and I get that these penalties are very harsh, and some are going to think it's not fair, especially for messing with the spoiler, but if you mess with the spoiler or any parts of the next-gen car, there's a very good chance and possibility that your chances of contending, and you can have a major major, major advantage, and NASCAR wants the field to be so close together, which I don't agree. I think that if you want the best racing out there, you're probably going to want to separate the field just a little bit overall in some areas, but I don't disagree with penalizing someone for messing and modifying with the parts. NASCAR, like I said, is very strict about that stuff. They don't want you messing and modifying with the stuff and adding your own components to the car, because otherwise you could have a massive unfair advantage to them, and they don't like that stuff's being messed, especially since NASCAR owns the next-gen parts, and yes, they can change the parts up from time to time, because they have so much control over how the next-gen parts go. They don't want the drivers messing with them, and they don't want the teams messing with them. Now, to be fair to Chase Briscoe, I don't think Chase Briscoe himself was the one messing with the parts, so I'm not going to put any blame toward Chase Briscoe, because I do feel bad for Chase Briscoe in this situation, because yes, I know it's on all the team, and Chase Briscoe is part of the team of Joe Gibbs Racing, but at the same time, if you mess with those parts, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. This is the same thing, by the way. Many are going to say, well, didn't Joe Gibbs Racing get handed a big penalty? Yeah, Denny Hamlin got handed a big penalty last year, but that's on Toyota more than anything else. It's not on Joe Gibbs Racing. That was on Toyota. This is a Toyota situation. Now, sometimes, obviously, you're going to have next-gen parts that might be defective, and if they do appeal, which they have not announced if they're going to appeal, and probably by the time I'm done recording this video, they're probably going to announce if they're going to appeal or not. And I'd have to think, especially with such a big penalty, they're going to try to go ahead and appeal. But at this point for Chase Briscoe, he's going to have to win 2 races to even just have none. Now, granted, if he's in the regular season points, if he's inside the top 10, he'll make up a lot of those points, especially if he does win the regular season championship this year, which I don't think is going to be super, super likely that he'll get it done this year. I think then that Chase Briscoe does have a chance and opportunity to get it done. But this is a huge situation, and for a guy that I really think this year started off on a solid note, got a top 5 in the Daytona 500, this is definitely a major, major setback and a really big penalty for the team and organization. One other thing, I do want to mention before going, there are 2 other teams that got handed penalties. Ricker Racing and the number 51 team for Cody Ware, and Todd Young, the 34 team, have been handed 10 driver and 10 owner point penalties for ballast inside the car not being properly secured. They both had failed pre-race inspection for qualifying to happen, so they got penalized for that. Other than that, those are the only big penalties that did come out today, but this is a huge penalty for Chase Briscoe and a pretty big situation here, because you think about Chase Briscoe, he's competing for a championship this year. He's someone who has a really good chance and possibility to make the playoffs this year, and to be handed a big penalty this early in the season is a really big situation and a really big deal, and massive to see that Chase Briscoe is now basically on a major setback currently at the moment, and he's going to have some work to do. Luckily, he'll still have time to turn it around, especially since it's early in the season, but Briscoe's, I think, is like a negative 30, negative 40 points. I think he can turn that around. I think the speed is going to be there for the 19th team, but the big question will be, will the consistency be there? We'll just have to wait and see, but a pretty big penalty for Chase Briscoe, in my honest opinion. So, that is going to be today's special breaking news report on Chase Briscoe being handed major penalties. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about Chase Briscoe being handed massive penalties for messing with the spoiler? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And do you think the penalty was too harsh or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have race picks for the And Better Health 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're also going to have the paint skin video as well. If any major news that does break tomorrow, we know that the Henderson Motorsports appeal is going to be happening tomorrow. Probably a video on that as well. Then on Friday, we're going to have at least 2 to 3 NASCAR news videos dropping on the channel. We're also going to have content on the race reviews as well for trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. Content people like Haley Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, 2311, the lawsuit with Michael Jordan, Junior Motorsports, Connor Zilch, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creek, Clarence McFarland, Matt DiBenedetto. Other big people in the industry, we'll talk about them as well as we get closer to the weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. A busy week so far, and pretty crazy penalties there for Chase Briscoe. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.